Welcome to a Sister Circle Empowerment Hour where women support other women. Today, I am happy to bring to you Evelyn Hemphill, who is an advocate and activist against domestic violence, sexual assault, and other injustices to support victims. Evelyn educates the public about the dynamics of domestic violence and sexual assault while and also provides resources to survivors. So welcome Evelyn to the show. We appreciate you coming by today to share your story and your input into supporting people with these horrendous acts.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you. So let me just ask, how did you find yourself here?
I found myself here because I'm a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault twice, once as a teenager and once when I got married. So early on, when I experienced things, I found that later on, when I became an adult, much hadn't changed. Everything was still the same or worse.
Huh?
So
So
that's
let's
how I got here.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about the warning signs because since you've gone through this, I know you have reflected back to look at some of the warning signs that you may not have seen at the time.
The first warning sign I noticed, I often compare when I was a teenager and when I was an adult, when I became an adult, excuse me. The first warning sign was control. And the person that is being victimized, they seem to lose themselves and they seem to lose their identity to someone else.
And I can definitely relate to that because my first marriage, I lost my identity. Uh it wasn't, and I didn't realize it until like after it was all over. Then it was a situation where I didn't even know what kind of ice cream I liked. I had to, it was just little things that I had noticed after the fact. And I had a conversation with God and asked Him to never, ever, ever, ever allow me to be manipulated in that manner again. Because it took me over a year to really get myself back to me.
It took me many years because when I became an adult and I was re-traumatized and abused once again, it kind of took me back to my teenage years.
Mhm.
So it took me many years to find myself again.
Yes, yes, and it does take time. So let's talk a little bit about the types of abuse because I think people need to understand that it's not just hitting, it can be, verbal as well as manipulation. And sometimes the devil comes very kind.
Yeah.
So
And
let's talk.
also, it can be emotional
Mhm.
abuse, financial abuse. And I just learned a new word. Since I'm on this journey, I always look up words that pertain to domestic violence. And so I will be able to relate them to what happened to me.
Mhm.
The word is triangulation. That's
Mm.
when an abusive person recruits a third party in the relationship and they recruit that person against the victim.
Ah,
So that's a type of abuse also.
wow. And I've seen that as well.
Well, I wouldn't say it is a type of abuse, but that's a psychological thing that abusers use. It's a psychological strategy.
Okay. Okay, because I'm talking to a young lady now that is in a situation where the children are involved with the ex, and the ex has a girlfriend who is pretty much in his ear about the children that are not even hers, and it's causing a lot of conflict with the kids, which a lot of times parents don't realize that's traumatic to children.
Yes, it is.
Y-
Very.
Yes. And I mean, regardless to what's going on between mom and dad, you have to think about the children first.
You do. That's why I fought for my child so hard, because I had a child involved in my situation.
And what did that look like for you?
Um, that looked like to me, I was almost cast into homelessness. My health failed. It was a very hard fight, but I would like to tell the public, when you get into these situations, you have to educate yourself as to what is supposed to be happening and how. If you don't know what's going on, you cannot fight back. You can't fight back if you don't have knowledge of what's happening.
And how should, I mean, a lot of times we know what's happening, we just can't put a name to it. You know, we know certain, we kind of know, we kind of like go through this fear thing, depending on where you are, you might be dependent on that person's income.
That's why if you want your life, so you have to make plans for your own life sometime. If
Mhm.
you're in an abusive relationship, that's like planning financially, planning an exit, where you're gonna live. You have to make plans for yourself, because that's like having a trauma bond with somebody. When you know it's unhealthy, you have to plan, if you want to leave, how to get yourself out of that.
Yes. And a lot of times we hear stories where people, I'm going to say women, basically try to blame themselves for the other person's behavior. What's your
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
yeah, people do that. That's when the person's self-esteem is torn down. And as I just mentioned, that is a trauma bond.
Yeah.
That's very unhealthy also.
Yes. Yes. Let's talk a little bit about narcissism. I see that a lot. Uh, and let's define it so that our audience understand what that means.
To me, a narcissist is an untruthful individual. This is my definition. It may not be textbook, but this is what I've experienced. They show up as one person, and then when they get home, they're someone else. They don't know how to tell the truth about things, and they just constantly manipulate people.
So, yeah, manipulators. So, if someone's out there that might be in that situation, you've just defined it as it related to your story. What can you tell them to, yeah, we talked about the planning, but sometimes that takes time. So, how do you stay in a household with a narcissist?
Well, I stayed in a household with a narcissist because I hid myself behind the shadows. I have to be honest, I accepted some of the things because I wanted to be married, I wanted a family. I kept telling myself that these things were going to change, but they did not change. Everything just got worse over time.
And once you saw that it wasn't going to change, what was your next steps?
I stopped caring. I stepped out of my marriage. I had an affair because my self-esteem was low and I just didn't care anymore.
Okay, and then what did that finally lead to? Because I mean, we know there had to be more friction behind that action. So what did that ended up leading to?
The divorce, and I was charged with adultery, and all of this happened in a South Carolina family court in
Mm,
a small town called Chester, South Carolina.
mm.
Even though I was the victim of domestic violence and sexual assault, I stepped outside of my marriage. I was charged with adultery and I lost it all.
Wow. Wow. So what does that say for women? Because we know men do it all the time and think nothing of it.
I guess they just focused on what happened, how I contributed to the
Well,
marriage ending, but nothing, it wasn't focused on the actions of the other person.
right. Yeah, I can recall going through the same similar situation with my divorce. It was, a nasty divorce, not because of me, because I mean, I had this idea of what a wife should be. I think when you first get married, you think it's some kind of Cinderella thing, and
Yeah,
you're gonna live happily ever after. And it is so far from that.
it really is.
But you don't know what to expect.
You don't.
Especially in the first marriage, you all, googly eyed and, I love you, and not understanding that marriage takes work.
It's a relationship takes work. It's a
Yeah,
lot of work
it's a
involved
whole
in
lot of work.
relationships and marriages.
And sometimes people come into the marriage one way, and then as the marriage goes on, bad habits get developed.
Yeah,
And I know I can remember situations with my husband where, I'm the type, I'm an observer. I watch what you're doing before I open my mouth. And then what I find is sometimes men tend to make you think you crazy and you don't know what you see.
that's the manipulation tactic.
And I think a lot of people do that because they don't want to hear what you have to say. So
Well, the world is kind of like that now. I
yes,
mean,
that's
it's
true.
not, that doesn't have to, you don't have to be in a relationship with someone for them to manipulate you. When
Yes.
you know something is happening, they will try to convince you that it's something else. And I'm no longer easily manipulated. I used to be a naive person. I really did. But I've grown. This situation has caused me to grow. It was sent, I believe, by the enemy with the intention of killing me, but it only made me better.
Yes. And that's what sometimes that's what happens when we go through stuff and we go through it and we come out of it, there's learning there. There's strength there. And it's always a situation where you're either getting ready to go in it, you're in it, or you're coming out. It's the one of the three.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes we go through these things because we need to be strong enough to educate the next person who's going through it.
Yes, I didn't want this fight, but my child was involved and
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice.
So let's talk about how the court systems, because I went through a similar situation and the court system just act like I wasn't even there. And
That's where the education piece comes in at. When you hire these attorneys, you have to go do your homework, because in these courts, it seems like these filing dates, when these papers are filed in court, you don't have a lot of times to respond.
Mhm.
And you have to consult with whoever you hire, your attorney, and you have to know exactly what's going on, because I think you have 5 or 10 days in some instances to file or to respond to something. You don't get a lot of time. That's why you need to be educated before you go into court as to what's going on, because lay people, even like myself, I didn't know what the name of the documents were. That's why it's very important for you to educate yourself. Google is out there. You can find out any information on Google, YouTube.
Right. Yes.
You
Yes.
have to be prepared.
And I think a lot of times when we're going through, these are emotional type situations, and our feelings is tied up, that a lot of times we can't think straight.
That's right. But at some point, I had to release my emotions because I had to be in fight mode because I was fighting for my life.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
had to end up spending over $100,000 in my situation and didn't get justice. So I was
Wow.
literally fighting for my life. I had to put my emotions aside.
Mm. Yes, and it comes a point where we definitely have to do that because, especially when there's children involved, you're not only living for yourself, you're also living for them as well. And they're depending on you to make their life stable.
Well, my child, I was determined. I believe if I had not become a pro se litigant, I don't really think that my child would even know who I am at this point.
Mm.
So I believe the child was used as a pawn, by not only by the system, but by my ex-husband also. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, did your ex-husband, um did he commit adultery as well?
I am not sure, because when I was in a marriage, I was a people pleaser.
Okay.
So my ex-husband did what he wanted to, how he wanted to, whenever he wanted to do it. So I can't really say if he did or not.
Oh, okay. Okay. But we get that feeling,
Yeah.
that gut start kicking in,
Yeah.
and we know, okay, when it's happening, we just get something that comes over us. Something is wrong. He ain't right. Or they come home smelling different.
You're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because smells and things like in my house, if I'm away, I can come back and tell almost every move that got made throughout the house based on little clues that they leave.
Yeah.
You know, they smell different. Where you been? I don't wear that kind of perfume.
Not only that, the demeanor and attitudes may
Yes.
change.
Yes. What used to be okay about you is no longer okay. They don't like it, or they complaining about what you're wearing, or they just complaining about a lot of different aspects of you. So that's a good indication they cheat.
Well, that's how you lose your identity, when you start dressing different, and maybe you may make wear makeup when you meet a person and you stop wearing your makeup. You're slowly losing yourself
Yes.
to that individual. And the next thing you know, you're going to turn around. They will have complete control over your life if you don't watch it.
Yes. Yes. And it's important, in the relationship, that you keep your identity.
Yes.
You come together to grow together, not to change anybody.
Mhm. No.
Now, at the same time, change is necessary if it's not supporting the cause,
Correct.
for sure. Because I mean, I know I've had conversations with my husband, rest his soul. but he started going, just different things I noticed. And I became one of those type of people when I see something that's not making me feel right in my skin from another person, then I quickly say something.
It's okay to speak your truth, because guess what? If you don't say anything, that means that you are really accepting what that other person is doing, whether it's right or wrong.
Yes.
So you have to keep your autonomy. Autonomy is making your own decisions. And if it means you need to say something, then you have that right to say something.
And then so a lot of times when I would say something, it would be like, oh, here we go again. And I'm like, yeah, here we go again. If you want me to see something different, then do something different.
Yes.
This is what I see, and I'm not feeling it. So I really got, because I believe, whatever I'm supposed to have, I'm going to have with or without a man. I do not need a significant other to survive. It's a nice thing to have a relationship with someone, but if it's toxic, is it really better than nothing?
I end toxic relationships. It
Uh,
doesn't matter if it's a romantic, family, friend, or
yes,
what have you. When I have to go, I have to go, because that brings me down and I just cannot
yes.
participate in that.
Girl, I'm here to tell you, peace is my goal.
Mine too.
I do not like drama, period, from anyone, family, friends. I will bless you and send you on your way
Yeah.
in a heartbeat. So let's talk about some of the resources that people had if they find themselves in these type of situations.
Well, I collaborate with a domestic violence organization called Catapult Outreach, located in North Carolina and South Carolina. It's a domestic violence organization that caters to women and children, and they will refer men out for help, to other places, but they provide temporary transitional housing for women and children. But their Catapult is in the midst of getting a transitional house. I'm not going to say trying to, I'm speaking it in existence. Getting a transitional house for domestic victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, the women and children. So I volunteer with that organization a lot.
Okay. I bet you did. So if people want to speak with you in terms of getting educated about what they might be going to and putting a word to it, because we've all gone through so much stuff that we don't know what the word is for.
Yeah. Let me say this too, excuse me. Sherry T. Cribb is the executive director of Catapult Outreach. But if anybody would like to get in touch with me, I'm Evelyn Hemphill on Facebook, and I have a LLC called Evelyn the Advocate, and I do also have a website where they can get in touch with me.
Yes, yes. So what's your website address?
Evelyn the Advocate at uniweb.com.
Okay. Okay. And I'll make sure that's in the show notes so that people, because I'm sure they're not going to write it down, but in the show.
And they will see me on Facebook, because I do a lot of lives and a lot of reels on Facebook. I'm
Okay.
Evelyn Hemphill on Facebook.
Yeah. So connect with Evelyn on Facebook, and she definitely going to steer you in the right direction for sure. Wow. This is a unfortunate situation that we have to talk about that, but for many centuries, the domestic violence against women is not a new thing. It has been going on since the beginning of time, almost. And why do you think that's so?
People are ashamed to talk about domestic violence, I believe. They just feel like some people feel like it's their own personal business, but the way my situation happened, I don't have a choice. I didn't have a choice but to go public. I did not have a choice but to go public. But I think if we start to have more conversations about domestic violence and sexual assault, I'm talking about regular people, because I can't say that it was easy for me to get this information out because it was very difficult. It's been very difficult for me to tell my story, but I'm thankful that I'm able to tell my story. But regular people need to start having conversations about domestic violence and sexual assault. We need to start educating the teenagers about this stuff. I
Yes.
feel so bad because there are many men and women walking around homeless because of this epidemic. They didn't know where to go. They couldn't get help. And if you say that certain people are abusing you, some people won't even believe you.
Hmm. That's true. That's true. And that and especially if the abuser has any kind of clout,
Yes,
you can
you're
because
right.
they showing a different thing to the people that they work with in the public, but behind closed doors, like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of
Yeah.
situation.
That's that manipulation and narcissistic personality trait
Hmm.
that they
Yeah,
use.
which makes it very, very difficult for you to plead your case because this person is an upstanding, so to speak, citizen in the community, but they could come home and beat their wife.
And see, the last time I checked, like I said, I'm in South Carolina. South Carolina is not a huge state. The last time I checked, South Carolina is number 6 in the nation for domestic violence. Number 6.
Wow. Wow. That's unbelievable. That is unbelievable. Yeah, it's why can't we just get along? And if you can't get along, move on.
Yes, that's right.
And the thing with humans since the beginning of time is control.
That's what I said. Control is that first sign that
Yeah.
you're in a domestic violence relationship.
But it's like, why do we feel so compelled to control someone else as a humans? Because this is at every part of the globe is some kind of control thing going on.
I think that people are not being held accountable, number one, for their actions. And number two, people don't have boundaries. And if you have boundaries, people make you the issue.
Mm-hmm.
When you have boundaries and when you explain to people that this is, I don't accept this, I don't accept that, this is my boundary, they make you out of the problem. And it doesn't have to be in a romantic relationship either,
Oh,
just in regular relationships.
yeah. Well, we see it every day
Yeah.
all around the world where people are in genocide, all of that kind of stuff, wars. It's about controlling territories.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of that. I think here on the news lately, there's
Yeah.
a lot of that happening right now.
Yes. I mean, don't you have enough? When is enough enough? Why do you need to take from other people for more? It's plenty enough to go around. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
And if it's not, then we're here to share with the meek.
Yeah, but some people just want it all and they will do anything to have it all.
Yes. So I do now let me ask you a question. I'm thinking outside of the box now.
Okay.
do you think that certain things need to be taught in school in terms of, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Behavioral in different situations.
I believe that it needs to be taught in school, and culturally,
Yes.
we as a people, we talk about molestation, but we don't teach our kids about domestic violence.
Right.
We need to be doing that. And
Yeah.
yes, I feel like people need to be educated in school about domestic violence, what it is, what to expect. So when it happens, they will be able to identify what's happening to them.
Yes. And unfortunately, the school system, it's they are not, I mean, they feel like the parent should be doing it. But so a lot of times what happens, the parent is in it.
But the parents sometimes don't even know
Right.
how to talk to their child about that. That's why I was saying the education piece is very important.
Mhm.
Knowledge and doing research so we can prevent our people from experiencing domestic violence and sexual assault and going out there getting on drugs and alcohol and
Right.
things like that.
Yes. Yes. There's so much to talk about with your kids, I mean, like when my kid was young, we talked about touching and all of that kind of stuff. And we even and then some of the things he may hear if somebody tried to touch me, if he tells
Yeah,
kill you me or kill this one. And I'm like, I don't care what they say, you gotta tell me.
that's what I was saying. We talk about the molestation, but we don't talk about domestic violence. At least that's true for my generation. And when I was growing up,
But oh
I
yeah.
didn't know what was happening.
And my parents didn't talk about that, even though they were abusive to each other. So witnessed it firsthand
I
with,
have to.
with my mother and father, fighting, talking derogatory to one another. That's abuse.
Yeah,
But I think back then it was they didn't know because it's
they
one
weren't.
of those generational curses. That's what they saw, so that's what they brought to the table.
But I said when it came to me, the generational curse was going to stop there.
Right.
It was going to stop with me because I'm going to have this hard conversation. I'm going to be very transparent and tell people exactly what happened.
Yes.
And it's documented online,
Mm.
the actual court case that I was involved in. So I'm not making up anything.
Yes.
Anything I say on these platforms, I have receipts to prove it. That's why I'm going to keep talking about it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Because that's so important, and I've talked to my son about, abuse, hitting women. You don't hit women, you walk away. If you can't reason at that particular time, walk away, take a breath, come back when the when it's not escalated. You want to de-escalate situations because when you are in a argumentary mode, you're not going to hear nothing. Nobody's hearing nothing. You're too busy fussing and being loud.
Now, I got to
And
say this now. Nowadays,
yes,
some females are guilty of being real aggressive nowadays too. I have to say
yes,
that. That's why we need to teach people while they are young that is not acceptable.
yes, and there's so
The
much
the
stuff.
the males and the females, they need to be taught. They're not educated.
No, they're not. And they're not, I mean, even though, I mean, the schools, they've got so much responsibility on them as it is. But the thing of it is, there are so many outreach programs out there I mean, none of which when I was coming up, we had. At least I ain't know about it.
Some people
Now,
just,
nowadays, it's plenty of support
yeah,
everywhere.
it really is. And you can even go online.
Yeah,
Just to Catapult Outreach has the Tulich Voice Hub. They put education on there. Sometimes I'm on there collaborating with the executive director of Catapult Outreach. We talk about domestic violence. We educate people. Different apps and stuff are out here that people can find and go to and become educated. It's nothing to be ashamed about.
yeah. So we have to take that stigma away.
Yes, we
Yeah,
really do. That's why I'm here being transparent. I'm not ashamed of anything I've gone through because, like I just said, it just only made me a better person.
yes. And we all go through stuff.
Yeah,
Like we were talking the other day. Thank God we don't look like what we've been through.
exactly. Oh, boy, that is true.
Because we all go through this
Mm.
stuff on this earth. And there's good people, there's bad people, there's people with different motives, and sometimes they touch our lives.
And nobody lives a perfect life. At least I don't think so. I don't know
No,
anybody that
no,
has a perfect life. I know I don't.
I know I don't either.
I have a good life and I'm grateful, but my
Yeah,
life is not perfect.
absolutely, absolutely. As to me, I think perfect should almost be abolished from the dictionary because when it comes out perfect, 9 times out of 10, you don't even know how you got there.
No.
You really don't, and this education piece is so, so important because the more you can identify what's going on, the better you'll be able to do something about it. And unfortunately, that comes with age. We've been on this earth a good minute. We've been through some stuff. So we can identify things like immediately. Okay, this is not right. Okay. But
And
our
then
young,
if you feel like it's not right, go to a professional, a therapist or a counselor, or hopefully somebody in your church may be able to help you. But I'm finding, I don't want to bash anybody, but some churches don't want to talk about domestic violence.
of course they don't. They want everything to be, you know, I don't know what they want it to be, but we all know doing the Bible, doing when Christ walked the earth, it was the same thing going on, and that's going on today. It's a new day, same stuff.
They need to be more open because the people are right in there with them.
Right.
They
Yes.
can
Yeah.
say it's okay if you're experiencing domestic violence. We have these resources for you. We
Yeah.
don't want you living like that, but it's just such a stigma.
Yes. Oh yeah. It's just like mental health. It's like for a long time, people are now beginning to come out and address mental health issues because talking and having these conversations like we're having, letting people know it's okay. You need to talk about it.
Now, domestic violence can cause people to end up with mental health issues
Yes.
also.
Yes.
Anxiety, post-traumatic stress syndrome, health problems. I had developed a thyroid problem. I was under so much stress,
Mm,
but God healed me. I no longer have that thyroid problem, and I'm so grateful. I'm not having the symptoms right now, and it's been
right.
a few years. So the
Yes.
stress contributed to that sickness, that illness coming on.
Yes. I mean, there's just so many, especially women. I mean, I know men go through it, but it seems like this affects many women in many different relationships, not just in a a lover relationships, but also in different relationships, work, uh, being treated badly on jobs or just doing I tell you, as women, we got so much to deal with. Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah. And it seems like the world is accepting these actions and these
Yeah,
behaviors, but I'm not one that's going to do that. I don't
no,
accept it.
hell, or excuse my French, but I'm here with you. Yeah, I can't accept it.
That's no, I'm not. I
No,
don't care if you expect for me to accept that. I am not accepting it.
I'm not either. Not at all. Not at all. Not any day. Not even a little
No,
bit.
that's my boundary, and I'm keeping that boundary.
Yes. Like I said, peace is my new gold. Because when I close my doors and come in my home, I don't want no drama whatsoever living in here.
Yeah.
None.
Having peace, it keeps you in a good place. And I can say for the first time in many years of my life, I finally have peace.
Yes, I'm at peace right now myself, and I am cherishing every minute and every day and thanking God for it because I think as you get older, those kind of things matter. It doesn't matter about running up and down the street and
Oh no.
partying and doing all this kind of stuff that you did when you was younger. It
Hmm.
it matters that you have comfort, the things that you need, not necessarily what you want, but your needs are being met.
My needs are being met, and I'm such a humble person, almost facing homelessness
Yeah.
because of the financial toll that the case took on me. It
Mhm.
really changed me a lot
Yes.
for the
And
better.
yes, and it would. It would because that's the one thing about lessons. They hurt when you're going through them, but you won't do that again.
Mm-mm. No way. Exactly.
I
I
mean, yes, you learn so much when it hurts.
And then I don't run my mouth a lot like I used to before that situation, but I'm a misunderstood person because of that. Because
Yes.
I'm just observant. I just observe, but I really don't say a lot. And I'm misunderstood, but whoever misunderstands me, I'm sorry that you're misunderstanding me, but you don't know my story. You have no idea why I am the way that I am.
Yes, and that's most people. We've all got a story that has shaped and formed us over the years. And as to me, it makes more sense to learn the story, not judge the person.
That's right. But we are so quick to judge people
Yes, we are.
nowadays.
Oh my
It's
God.
it's very sad.
It is very sad. I'm praying every day for humanity because it feels to me like what's wrong is right and what's right is wrong.
Exactly.
I'm
And
like,
what's fake is real now.
right, yes, yes.
That's
It's like,
sad.
okay. And thank God I got my own statue of what I believe the way it should be. I'm not a follower. I'm not a follower at all. If it
I
don't
used to
make
be a
sense,
pe- I used to be a people pleaser, but that lesson, it broke me.
yeah, buddy.
It
Yeah,
broke me down.
yes. No more. I don't blame you, girl, because that people pleaser will get you in a whole bunch of trouble that you don't want to be bothered with for sure.
The next thing you know, you'll be like, yes, 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 yes to everything.
Yes. Yes.
You don't know how to say no. It's
Yes.
a small word, but something happens when you live to please people.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. No is a complete sentence, so you can put a period on the end of it, and nothing else needs to be said.
I had to learn how to say no because I was a notorious people pleaser.
And I think we've all been there because at the end of the day, we want to make people happy. We want to serve. If you're in a service type mindset, you want to help people. So it becomes very difficult to say no sometimes. But
Yeah,
at the same time, you got to watch the users.
exactly.
If that one person keeps coming every time you did them something, you did them a favor, and here they come back week later for another one, week later for another one, then they taking advantage of the situation.
There's a lot of people out here in hustling mode now, though. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know what's happening.
I don't know what's happening. The devil is alive. That's all I know. So
But you know what, Ida, I'm not gonna let them people change who I am. I'm
no,
just
no,
gonna
no.
be observant of them and let
Right,
them know that I know.
right. Or better yet, bless them and send them on their way. I can do that so well now. Because sometimes when you try to reason with people, that you end up getting your blood pressure up, and they just gonna be who they are.
Yeah. And you cannot change
And
them.
no, you can't change folk. And I just bless them and send them on their way. And you know, that's the end of it. Because like like we all talked about before, we are who we are based on the road we've been traveling.
Yeah.
And some people learn from the mistakes and others don't.
Mine was a long, hard road. And God separated me from a lot of people. There
Yeah.
was just a few people there with me when I went through this crisis. I was able to see who the real people were.
Oh, you always do that when it's hard. When it ain't
Yeah,
going well, you know who your real friends are.
yeah,
'Cause,
friends and a few family members.
yeah, when it's hard, you can count them on one hand who gonna be sticking around.
That's right. Because everybody else hightailed it out of there.
Absolutely. So again, Evelyn, how do people connect with you? Because we definitely gonna have to do this again because I definitely want to get into more deeper areas and educate people on what to look for in this particular area and not just graze the surface.
Okay.
So how do people connect, my dear?
I'm on Facebook, Evelyn Hemphill. Earlier, I forgot to say Evelyn the Advocate, LLC. That's a second Facebook page. And I have a website, Evelyn the Domestic Violence Advocate at uniweb.com.
Yes. Well, God definitely brought you through it. And I am grateful that you're here to share your story because it matters. God don't take us through these different things to keep to ourselves
That's right.
because he already knows somebody else out there is either getting ready to go through it, in it, or coming out.
As a matter of fact, I had a young lady to send me a message the other day. She said, I want you to know that you're helping me.
Oh,
And I felt honored
yes,
because obviously this person is going through something. She may have lost herself, but the beautiful thing about it is she's finding herself again.
yes, yes. Amen to that. So thank you so much, Evelyn, for sharing with us today. And we definitely going to be doing this again because I think that people need to hear things more than one time to get that aha moment because of fear or whatever's going on, that they feel like they stuck. And we want people to know you ain't stuck in nothing God don't want you in.
That's right. God can, He will redeem you, but you have to be faithful. And
Yes.
I have to say this, God is who got me through this situation. It wasn't me. Like I said, I didn't want the battle.
Right.
But He knows the soldiers who He needs to give the battles to. He knew that I
Absolutely.
wouldn't stop until it was done. And
Yes.
that's exactly how I got on your platform.
Absolutely. And thank God you are here. I am so honored
Thank
to have
you.
met you. And it's funny how people come into your life and you didn't even know they was gonna come in your life. God is so amazing how he does things. We could never do it like that. Now that's
Right.
perfect.
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you stopping by and embarking on this conversation, and definitely stay tuned for more.
Thank you.